There we go. I see people are joining us. I'll just wait a moment as more folks sort of get into the room,
Perfect.
and we'll start.
Hopefully the dog will have stopped barking by then.
Okay. Yes.
We're all getting to know each other an awful lot better, aren't we?
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I think the number of folks joining have slowed down a little bit. So I'm going to say hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm the President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our Navigating COVID-19 webinar series with today's expert from RBC. It is a scary time for entrepreneurs and business owners. The provincial and federal government have announced a variety of different funding programs to keep people employed and to help businesses stay afloat. Though many businesses are experiencing drastic drops in revenue, today is an opportunity for us to learn what's available to support them. So before we get started, I want to let everyone know about the Chamber's resource page. We update it daily with new information about the funding programs for businesses and individuals and the changes that the government or levels of government may make on a daily basis. So I encourage you to head to halifaxchamber.com and then click on our COVID-19 header right at the top, and you will find lots of information. We're also doing many webinars daily, so check out the events lineup on the website to see what other topics we are covering. I do have a few questions to get us started, and Kellie's going to do a presentation to begin with, but do type in your questions to the Q&A box. You can also click on raise your hand to get my attention as we go along. There is a chat box and a Q&A box. I would encourage you to look at the Q&A box first. You can also post those questions to everyone, so panelists and all attendees is the best way. Or you can ask specifically to the speakers. You can also, through the chat, send private messages to me if you have something that you'd like to clarify. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Kellie Sauriol is the Regional Vice President, Business Financial Services, Atlantic Canada for RBC. She leads a team of 190 financial services professionals overseeing the delivery of financing, investment, and cash management advice and solutions to commercial and small businesses throughout Atlantic Canada. Kellie, welcome. And how are you doing through all of this?
Wonderful, thank you. I mean, there's no question that it's been a tremendous adjustment and whatnot, but all things considered, very well. My apologies to everyone if you can hear some toddler in the background there. It's just the new normal. But thank you so much for having me. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to be with you all this morning. To say the world has changed in a very short period of time would be an understatement. People everywhere are adjusting to a new reality and trying to accept that while this may be temporary, it's likely to persist longer than any of us would like. And as business owners, you are facing very unique circumstances. Through this pandemic, some businesses continue to operate per usual. Some are pivoting, some are thriving. But as you know, there are many others that are facing a very stressful and uncertain road ahead. And if this applies to your business, I want you to know that we see you, we hear you, and we are committed to understanding your individual needs to give you the best advice we can for your situation. And most importantly, I thank you. I thank you each for the incredibly vital role you play in supporting Canada's economy and providing jobs to our friends and family and neighbors. So if we could just move to the next slide, please. And as Patrick mentioned, the good news is that our federal and provincial governments have stepped up to mobilize significant resources to support Canadians and businesses everywhere. At RBC, we have been working closely and collaboratively with government to make sure that you are getting the support you need and also to maintain the underlying strength and stability of Canada's economy to survive this pandemic. If there's government partners on the line, I want to thank them for their work in mobilizing these resources. These new investments will support businesses directly and also help Canada's financial institutions like us provide the credit and liquidity options that a range of our business owners need immediately. So here's a bit of an overview of what the federal government is doing. So first, the federal government has stepped in to mobilize more than $200 billion in aid to Canadians and businesses everywhere. It is unprecedented and excellent levels of support, and it includes a 75% wage subsidy for qualifying businesses for up to 3 months, and that's retroactive to March 15th. And it's designed to really help keep and return workers to payroll. They're also allowing businesses, including self-employed individuals, to defer all GST and HST payments until June. And this represents the equivalent of providing about $30 billion of interest-free loans. They've also launched an emergency business account, which I'll speak more to in a little bit. This program is going to be providing $25 billion to financial institutions like RBC, so we can give small businesses interest-free loans up to $40,000. And they're going to be launching small and medium-sized enterprise loan and guarantee programs that will enable up to an additional $40 billion in lending. And these are supported through EDC and BDC for those companies who are needing a little bit more help to meet their operational cash flow requirements. So we can move on to the next slide. I'd like to speak a little bit about how the province has also stepped up. They have mobilized about $161 million in aid to small businesses, giving them a much needed break on paying back government loans and business-related fees until the end of June, and deferred payments and interest on loans under the Jobs Fund, the Municipal Finance Corporation, and Housing Nova Scotia. If you could just move to the next slide, please. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. The province has also strengthened the small business loan guarantee program so that businesses in urgent need of money can apply up to $500,000 in loans. They've also established something called the Worker Emergency Bridge Fund for self-employed and laid off workers who actually don't qualify for EI. So in this program, the government will provide a one-time $1,000 payment to bridge the gap between layoffs and closures and the emergency response benefit programs. Additionally, they've started the Small Business Impact Grant, providing eligible businesses a one-time grant of 50% of their gross revenues up to a maximum of $5,000. So for more information on these programs, I think I've put the link in there. Yeah, so novascotia.ca/coronavirus, and it will be under the support section. So we could move on to the next slide, please. I know that you're most interested in hearing about how you will need to work with your bank to access resources. So I will, of course, be covering that. But because RBC is a business as well, I thought I would pull back the curtain for folks and just give you a little bit of a peek about how we're managing through this. So like you, we have basically transformed almost every aspect of how we operate in less than a month. To keep our employees safe and continue to serve our clients during this critical time. We've had to work very quickly to mobilize 45,000 employees to work from alternate arrangements or work from home. As borders were closing around the world, we needed to help clients get home or complete their travel plans. And this drove call volumes that were so high that we had to redeploy employees from other parts of the organization who knew nothing about this over there to help manage the volumes and clearly train them up very quickly. Additionally, we've had to temporarily close about 40% of our branches, limit hours of operations at others so that we can limit the spread of COVID. We've been working with partners in government to maintain the underlying strength and stability of Canada's economy through standing up a number of these programs, et cetera. And those are just a few. And while these shifts are certainly by no means easy and they required that we deliver these solutions in real time, I think we're certainly proud of the adjustments we've been able to make. But most importantly, I'll get you to shift to the next slide. We have mobilized support for our clients like never before. In Atlantic Canada, our first move was deploying the largest team of competent and caring and industry specialized account managers and associate advisors and financing specialists and risk management professionals in the market. We hit the street, and I certainly don't mean that literally, but we were hitting the phones and email and connecting with our clients. And I can tell you that in Halifax alone, our team has connected with thousands of clients in the past 3 weeks. And in those conversations, we're starting, first we're listening to what's actually happening. What are our clients going through? And we're then offering support. We're very carefully assessing the needs of every client to find the right combination of financial relief for them. And depending on their circumstances, this could include, business loan payment deferrals, increasing operating facilities, waiving credit card minimum payments, waiving fees for enrollments into new cash management solutions. And I will say that we are putting the authority to do this stuff directly in the hands of our account managers to get our clients the liquidity that they need, and very, very fast. So if you can move to the next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we're also very, very heartened with the support being offered by all levels of government through this. These are really enabling our businesses to retain workers, to defer taxes, and inject additional liquidity into the system. In the business community, these programs are rapidly becoming household names. But just to recap, these are the primary federal programs that are probably of interest to this audience: the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, the Canada Emergency Business Account, or otherwise known as CEBA, the Business Development Bank of Canada co-lending facility, and the Export Development Canada Business Credit Availability Program. So I'll touch on each of these things. But I should note that the BDC and the EDC facilities are not yet available, but they will be available very shortly. So I'll start with the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. This will provide a 75% wage subsidy to eligible employers for up to 12 weeks, retroactive to March the 15th. So if you want to review eligibility, you can go to canada.ca and have a look at that. Next is the CEBA, the Canada Emergency Business Account. And this is the one that will provide interest-free loans of up to $40,000 to small businesses and not-for-profit organizations to help with operating costs. The nice thing about this one is if the loan is repaid on or before December 31st, 2022, you can actually get loan forgiveness of up to 25% or $10,000. Now, as many of you may already know, the application for CEBA went live late last week, and I can tell you that as of yesterday, across Canada, we have already received and processed over 43,000 applications. We are getting money in our clients' hands very, very quickly. So if you move to the next slide. Yes, thank you. Perfect. In terms of eligibility, one thing I want to note is that financial institutions are implementing CEBA and also the BDC and EDC programs on behalf of the government. So eligibility for these programs is primarily based on the criteria outlined by the government. And when it comes to CEBA, I'm going to quickly run you through the main requirements, because I think this is the one that's most broadly applicable. And frankly, it's why they prioritize the standing up of this program first. So these bullets that are listed here and the comprehensive attestation details required by the government are also listed on our website, but I will go through them very quickly for you. So first, the person applying must have the ability and the authority to actually bind the organization, to allow them to take on debt. The organization must be a Canadian operating business and in operation as of March the 1st, 2020. as a, an additional bullet to that point, just for clarification, the organization cannot be a holding company. It's got to be an operating company, and it has to have a federal tax registration. You have to have a operating business banking account with your primary financial institution. And this account must have been operational by March the 1st, 2020. Next, you must not be in arrears more than 90 days on any, outstanding debt. Next, and this is sort of the one that captures the biggest bucket of it, your employment income paid in 2019 needs to be between $50,000 and $1 million. And you can demonstrate this through your 2019 T4 summary of remuneration paid. So if you need access to this, you can certainly access that from the government. I know that they can through your portal send you a new one. But the other ones that you need to attest to is that you've only applied to one financial institution. The other thing that you have to agree to is that you are willing to participate in a post survey from the government, and acknowledge that there's a possibility that you'll be audited. The last kind of criteria that I will outline is that you need to be attesting to the fact that you will be continuing or resuming your operations. So the proceeds of these funds should really be used to pay non-deferrable operating expenses. That's the intent of this. Things like payroll and rent and insurance and property tax and scheduled debt payments and those kinds of things. So as I mentioned before, you can look under our rbc.com COVID business page, and all this criteria and eligibility will be listed there. So if we could just move on to the next slide. I'll talk a little bit about how you apply. So if you're a qualifying business and you want to apply, I'll quickly review how you can do that if you're an RBC client. If you deal with another financial institution, you should certainly reach out to them directly, but I would imagine that their process is quite similar. It's part of how the program was designed, is so that there's clarity and simplicity for all Canadians. So for our RBC clients, the first thing you need to do is log on to your RBC online banking for business account. And because the enrollment process is actually only available through this platform, and it was a decision that was made collaboratively with the government to make sure that we could streamline applications and get funds into the hands of business owners immediately. So if you're not registered for online banking, you can do so by visiting our online banking for business registration page. Now, as part of the enrollment process, you're going to need 4 things. You're going to need to update your email and contact details within online banking. You're going to need your business client card number. You're going to need your organization's 2019 T4 summary of remuneration paid. And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have it, you can contact CRA and they will reissue your statement. And the last thing you need to do is just confirm that the person who's enrolling actually does have the ability to legally bind the organization and can attest on behalf of the organization as per the CEBA loan agreement. Now, some of our other business clients use a product called RBC Express, and if you are one of those individuals, just reach out to your RBC account manager. There's one additional step in the enrollment, but it's actually quite easy, and we've managed through all kinds of those. So once you've submitted your enrollment request, it will be reviewed by RBC, it will be reviewed by the government, and if the business qualifies, the funds will appear in your RBC online banking for business within 5 days. And I can tell you that the success we've had already is very, very significant. So if we move to the next slide, I'll just quickly touch on the BDC co-lending facility and the EDC business credit availability programs. Just note that these are intended for a little bit larger businesses. They will be offering term debt up to a little over 6 million each. And all these programs are stackable, meaning, it's not one or the other. You can, in theory, take advantage of all of them. More details on these programs are coming soon. For the EDC program, this is intended to be stood up by the end of the week. For the BDC program, it's going to be another week or so before we actually are able to stand it up. And all the financial institutions are working collaboratively with the government to be able to do these things and make sure that we all go out at the same time. So, no businesses are advantaged or disadvantaged depending on where they deal and those kinds of things. I can certainly say that as all the financial institutions in normal times, we're just like many businesses, we're fierce competitors, but that is absolutely not the case right now. We are all working together. I've been on webinars where all the institutions are featured, and really our objective is just to support Canadians and to support business owners in the very best way we can. So stay tuned for more details. As soon as they're available on that, we will certainly be sharing them. So if you just move on to the next slide, and this is in terms of advice that we have for our clients. So, in terms of advice, we've been able to do a lot. And we will be continuing to press ahead to help our clients plan in the weeks and months to come. When I talk to business owners, which I spend a lot of my time doing, the first things they typically ask is, what is right for me? And many are telling us that they're embarrassed to ask for help and that they're scared and uncertain about the future. And I just want to say today that, that is okay. That is completely normal. The reality is this has never happened before. It is an unprecedented time. So, whatever is happening in your business today, it's likely out of your control. So we will certainly help you and work with you. But for now, let's shift gears. Let's focus on what you can control. First and foremost, if you have not yet embraced digital options for your business, you must do it right away. Much of the relief that's going to be available is going to be delivered or implemented online. So please make sure that you do sign up for online banking. Next, you want to stay really close to your business and your trusted advisors. You want to gather your financials, build your cash flow projections for the next 6 to 12 months, engage your commercial account manager, your business account manager. We know that these are things you can't do alone, and we are here to help you with that. Also reach out to your other centers of influence, the chambers, your accountant, your lawyer, your industry colleagues, whomever it might be. And last, stay informed. It's hard not to hear about COVID on a daily basis, if not actually an hourly basis, probably more realistically. And the one thing that's unique about this event compared with, for example, the 2008 financial crisis is the 24/7 news cycle and social media. It is hard to keep pace. And, my opinion on this is, we've never had more access to information, but in some ways, very little insights. And so we're trying to fill the gap here. We're trying to help our clients through this scenario. And as a result, one of the things we've done is created a new podcast series called The 10-Minute Take, and I love it. It is hosted by John Stackhouse, former editor-in-chief of the Globe and Mail, who now works with RBC in our office of the CEO. And it's really a look at the political, geopolitical, macroeconomic, market events, and the current environment. It's delivering up-to-date insights and perspectives from RBC's analysts, but also from other experts on financial and economic developments that are related to the COVID-19 crisis. So I hope you will tune in. I think that you'll find it very, very valuable. We've also got tons of other resources through our economics department, through our global asset management groups that I would encourage you to access. And something new for us that we're actually just launching is a sponsorship of something called Chatter That Matters. It's a 10-part small business podcast series that debuted last Sunday. So the goal of this is really to offer insights, ideas, inspiration, motivation on how business owners can not only survive now, but when the economy comes back to life. So you can see it playing on radio stations, and you can also access the recordings online by Googling Chatter That Matters. The other thing that we're doing is we're hosting all kinds of smaller advice sessions, frankly, like this one. But we're also doing it based on specific industries. So if you're interested in participating in any of these, please reach out to me. Please reach out to your account manager. It's something that we're very, very proud to do, and our clients are really enjoying, is the opportunity to connect and hear from experts, and also connect them with other colleagues in the industry. So if you can move us on to the next slide, long and short here is that we are here for our clients. We are here in good times, and we are here in tough times. And I can tell you that our advisors have never had a sense of purpose like I see them have today. I am so proud of the work that they are doing with their clients. Every single day, my inbox is full of stories about the difference that they're making for businesses like you. So I really encourage you to reach out if you haven't yet spoken to somebody. A couple of examples I'll give you. We're talking to clients and not only advising them on some of their financial needs, but an example recently, we were talking to a client in the healthcare space, and they actually were in need of critical supplies like personal protective equipment, masks, sanitizers, those kinds of things. And our account manager was actually able to jump in and connect them to other local businesses who we work with, who are able to help them. So, not just helping our clients with their financial needs, but leveraging our networks and our, resources to be able to help just solve problems, right? We're all in this together. And so, we're absolutely thrilled to be able to play a role in supporting you. So, the last thing I will say is, just a huge thank you to Patrick and the entire team at the Chamber for the incredible work you've been doing to help your members stay informed, help the broader business community stay informed on a daily basis, really. There's so many announcements that are coming out, and so I really appreciate the advice and services you've been providing. But before I turn it over to everyone to ask any questions that you have, last couple things I want to reinforce. Please remember you're not alone. We're all in this together. We're all dealing with the challenges and disruption caused by COVID. I'm sure you all probably heard my toddler in the background there, and the dog, and everything. But we are doing our best to connect. And if you haven't heard from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. We certainly want to support you in every way we can. Next, please enable yourself digitally. If this crisis has taught us anything, whether it be, through our about our digital financial capability, or even the way we shop and access services, it is so incredibly important. So please make sure you're ready to adapt. And finally, just stay together, leverage each other, and support each other. So I'll end where I started, which is just with a big thank you. When you look around our country, and indeed the world, there is no question that the businesses we have here in Halifax are among the best and brightest and most resilient. And we will certainly get through this. Of that, I have no question. And it would be our pleasure to help all of our clients to play a role in doing that. So with that, Patrick, I'll turn it back to you in the event that there are any questions.
Unmute. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Thanks, Kellie. That's great and really helpful. I see we have a lot of folks on the line. So just before I get started, just to remind you, you can ask questions just at the bottom of your screen. It has a Q&A box. You can click on Q&A and ask questions there. You can have a chat as well. Although if you're going to chat, I would encourage you to, and you're going to ask any questions there, I would encourage you to address them to all panelists and attendees, because although Kelly and I may have an answer, someone else may have an answer as well. So would encourage you to do that. And now let's get on to things here, Kelly. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and you're right, there's new things seems like every day, and if there's not new things, there's a change to something that has that's happened over the last couple of weeks. So there are a lot of programs. I mean, is there a way that RBC is helping their clients to identify which products are right for them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the role that we play, is making sense of all of this. You've got programming available through various levels of government. You've got program or support that's available through financial institutions. And what we're doing is working with our clients one-on-one to understand how you layer all these together to not only support cash flow needs today and liquidity today, but also to make sure that you're not undermining some of your longer term financial goals by doing that. So taking into account, various pieces of the capital structure of companies, and making sure that we're helping people be thoughtful about what they use and when they use it. So yes, absolutely, that's something we're able to help with. Reach out to your advisor.
Okay, and a reminder, and I know you said this, but I don't know that people hear this enough. Now's not a time to be afraid to reach out to your advisor. Everyone's going through this. I mean, frankly, from the Chamber of Commerce, this is an unusual time, for our business model, if you will. I'm sure it's an unusual time for many people's business model. So I again, if you could just confirm that it's the right time, there's not a wrong time to call people and say hello, and maybe it means introduce yourself, but it may mean pick up a conversation you've already had.
It does, and we will help you. These times are requiring that all of us elevate our game. And what that means that I'm seeing for our business owner clients is they're having to get into the weeds in their business from a financials perspective in a way that is perhaps different from what they've had to do in terms of building out projections and understanding cash flow and working with their suppliers and partners to negotiate terms and all kinds of things. And what I will say is, while helping to figure out some of that stuff isn't necessarily something that we would do on a daily basis. We normally leave it to our clients to run their business. But at the end of the day, we are a center of expertise as it relates to finance. And if clients need help figuring out their cash flow, sorting through some of these things, figuring out what are the levers that they can pull in order to not only optimize their cash flow from a liquidity perspective with financial institution and government programs, but what are the other things that they can do? That's a role that we are happy to play.
Okay, and so the Canadian Emergency Business Account, it doesn't sound like, if you're simply providing information on your previous salaries, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of requirements for future cash flow statements and projections for the next 3 years or whatever it is when you're doing this application.
Not for CEBA, but for some of the other programs, I think there will be. The EDC and BDC programs, while they're not finalized yet, I've been getting a look because we're working collaboratively on, how these programs are structured and how they'll be operationalized. And, we will need a bit of a better line of sight as it relates to that. We're through those programs, and by we, I mean the collective we, government, financial institutions, everybody, enabling business owners to take on tremendous amounts of debt that they wouldn't have had access to in the past, and they wouldn't have needed in the past, quite frankly. And so, we really need to make sure that we help our business owner clients make sure that this is in fact the right thing for them. And part of that is in fact thinking through cash flow modeling, thinking through the broader implications of this, not only the near-term ones, but the longer-term ones. And in some cases that means opportunity, and we're aligning resources to support our clients to be able to grow. And in others, clearly it means that there's some real challenges to their capital structures.
Okay, great. So just a reminder for everybody, you can certainly post questions there if you have specific questions for Kellie. I guess, you know, if someone has, or they're currently making their payments on whatever it happens to be, so if they've got a small loan or a loan and they're currently making their payments, I mean, do you suggest that they take advantage of some of these programs that are available now anyway, or do you think they should just kind of forget about them for a while and, you know, wait until they're in a crisis?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say act now, right? So act now, talk to your advisor about exploring accessing these programs, whether it be the wage subsidy programs, whether it be the CEBA, whether it be some of these other things. Because, you know, as the old saying goes in finance, cash is king. And so, you know, what I'm not saying is a broad statement that every single person should take advantage of every single program and draw down all the resources and that kind of thing. What I am saying is it's really important not just to think about where you are today from a liquidity perspective, but also, you know, what that means for the future of, you know, yourself, your business, your family, those kinds of things. And yes, so reach out and we will work with you to help you understand not only your needs today, but what that looks like in the future for you. And, you know, of course, there's uncertainty, but, you know, we will leverage sort of guiding principles and modeling and stuff like that to help you think through these things.
Okay. Many of the businesses in the chamber are small businesses, and some of them pay their employees through dividends and that sort of thing. So when they've looked at CEBA, they actually are either under the $50,000, or they may actually be slightly over the $1 million. And I'm sure you've heard this over the last week or so. Do you have any suggestions for people that are either under or over, or are there other programs?
Yeah, there are. And so, you know, the unfortunate reality is that my understanding is that the rules are pretty firm, right? You know, we've received questions, which is, you know, we're $1,000 over or under, or whatever it might be. Do we qualify? And, you know, I want to remind everyone that eligibility is dependent on the government criteria, right? The financial institutions don't determine eligibility for these programs. So based on the criteria, you're either eligible or you're not. But if you're not eligible, it doesn't mean that there's no support available to help you, right? And so that's really why, you know, when I shared some of the material, I wanted to share, you know, here's what's happening federally. Here's what's happening provincially. Here's where your financial institution can come in. So, you know, the answer is yeah, even if you don't fit in one box, there are lots of other options that are available to support our business owners.
Well, and I think that's really important. You know, we've been talking to a lot of small businesses, and they've been concerned about a specific item. So they've been concerned about rent, and they have to make the rent payment. And they say, you know, the provincial government should be doing more for rent. And, you know, granted, there were some programs, you know, should they be doing more? Probably every level of government should still be doing more. But I think you really need to think of it as a cascade, and the way you've described it is a good way to think about it. First, what, you know, federal programs can I take advantage of? And then second, what provincial programs can I take advantage of? And then finally, you know, I mean, you kind of went to the financial institutions. I'd probably go to the municipal government and say,
Yeah.
and what programs will the municipal government have in terms of deferring payments or deferring tax and those kinds of things. So, you know, people really need to think about that cascade and how do I take advantage of all of that cascade? And then, to your point, you know, sort of get onto their financial advisor. So I'm going to keep going because I can go on questions forever. Should I dip into my RRSP? Is now a good time for me to dip into my RRSP to pull out some cash if I'm a small business owner?
It's a tricky question. And so, you know, I will say that while in my years gone by, I provided advice on the personal side of things, I'm in no way qualified to do that today. But what I will, what I will share with you is, as many people know, capital markets have been very, very volatile and have receded. And many, many experts around the world are saying, now's not the best time to be liquidating positions for many people. And that's, provided your goals haven't changed, you still have longer term view, those kinds of things. But there will be examples of people where that is going to be a requirement. They're going to have to dip into other forms of liquidity, whether it be, equity that they would have in a home, equity that they would have in, other capital assets that they would have, those kinds of things. And so one of the things that I am the most proud of at RBC is how collaborative our entire team has been. Our business banking team working with our various personal teams, whether it be the teams in the branch network, the financial planning teams, our wealth management partners at places like Dominion Securities and these kinds of things, to not only provide access to proactive advice events like I mentioned earlier, so that we can give broad access to these experts, but also just to meet with clients one-on-one to say, okay, here's the overall situation. How do we best help this individual? And, as we know, in particular, when we're talking about small business owners, your business isn't really separate from your person, right? It's sometimes one and the same. And, your employees in many ways are part of the family, right? They're folks who you've known and worked with for so long. And so really, we have to take a holistic view of how to help people. And that's combining government programs, liquidity available through financial institutions, thinking through liquidity options that people have personally, like you mentioned. So, there's no one right answer to that.
Right. Okay, no, that's a fair comment, actually. So the BDC and EDC programs, you said you guys are looking at those, you're trying to understand those as they're evolving. Does that mean that the charter banks and RBC will be will you be rolling that out in addition to BDC? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, so there's two programs. There's the BDC program and the EDC program. The EDC program, the last I heard, which was yesterday afternoon, is that the EDC program will likely be ready to roll out across the board on Friday.
Okay.
And the BDC program is likely going to be available to roll out about a week after that.
Okay.
So that's sort of the timing of those things. They're intended to be basically risk co-sharing arrangements with the financial institutions. So about 80% of each of the programs would be guaranteed by either EDC or BDC. The remaining 20% of the risk is going to be taken on by the financial institutions. And as a result, there's a risk management framework and process that needs to happen through those applications and whatnot. And that's why it's taking the financial institutions working with the government and these partners all working together to figure out, not only what are the criteria and what are the terms and all those kinds of things, but how do we operationalize them and make sure that we've got the resources available through risk management and through our operations and all these folks to stand these up and get money into the hands of Canadians.
Okay, just to kind of move a little bit, and it's not really personal. I think it could also be business. The mortgage deferral component, how is that working, or what does that do at this point?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, what I would say is the mortgage deferral is another one of those tools that is in your toolbox, right? Like, I've been doing a lot of fixing of stuff around the house, and so the toolbox analogy is one rings true to me. But as we talked about a little earlier around the personal side of things and bridging the personal and business stuff, that's another tool in your toolbox. So whether it be deferral of payments on your business loans or deferral of payments on your personal loans, like your mortgage, et cetera, the financial institutions are available to support on that, to provide the near-term liquidity that people need. So at RBC, we're absolutely doing that on the personal side. We're absolutely doing it on the business side for our business owner clients, and folks can take advantage of both, right, to optimize their cash flow situation.
And how does it work? Does it just sort of take, if I was to defer 3 months, does it just take those 3 months and drop them at the other end of my mortgage? Is that kind of how it works?
It's kind of how it works. And so, you know, my recommendation would be to have a conversation with your advisor, because there are implications to that, right? You tack more money onto the end of a loan, and that does increase the cost of borrowing on that. And so what we're trying to do is work with our clients to figure out, you know, what's the best thing for them to do. We don't want people taking on additional debt if they don't have to, and paying additional interest costs and those kinds of things. But in situations like we're in today, there are some, you know, some times where they have to do that, right?
Right. Yeah. So you've been speaking, you and your managers have been speaking to a lot of people. Are you seeing some trends? Like, are you seeing, getting a sense what business is looking for and what business is thinking at this point?
Definitely. Targeted, customized advice. So having the ability to kind of sit down and work through their own situation with their advisor is critically important. The other trend that I'm seeing is this trend of evolution, right? Like, you know, you're seeing businesses pivot like I've never seen before. You're seeing everybody pivot, right? And do things differently. And so, you know, we've got business owner clients of ours who were distilleries who are now pivoting to make hand sanitizer. We're seeing folks that were in the transportation space where some of their business dried up, and so they started doing home deliveries to you know, to supplement their revenue stream. I think we all know the story about Stanfields and how they shifted to being to making personal protective equipment like gowns and those kinds of things. And so, you know, being from Nova Scotia and, you know, growing up here and working in the business community, I feel we are one of the most resilient groups of people, and I'm seeing evidence of that through our clients all the time. Right? So that's another trend that I'm seeing. That's kind of on the positive side. But, you know, there's no question there's a lot of uncertainty and fear out there.
Yeah. So, you know, if I'm a client and my credit may not be very good, will I still qualify for some of these products?
For some of them, yeah, right? Absolutely. And so where we can, we will absolutely work with all of our clients to be able to provide levels of relief that are appropriate for them. Now, in some cases, if a business is already struggling, does it make sense to add, you know, several $1 million more debt to their balance sheet if they were already having trouble servicing it prior to going into this crisis? Well, it doesn't, because that doesn't necessarily set them up for success, right? So these are situations where we're really working with folks one-on-one to be able to address these needs. But some of the payment relief programs and waiving of the setup fees on these kinds of things, and waiving minimum payments on credit cards and all those kinds of things, yes, that applies very broadly.
Right. Are there some additional programs that we at the Chamber of Commerce can suggest to government that you've seen a need for in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the certain eligibility requirements of CEBA are, you know, we're definitely seeing examples among our client base of where people are not necessarily they're not eligible, but when you really think about their business, maybe they should be. And so I would say eligibility around that, and I've seen examples both at the high end and at the low end. Be happy to share more details on that with you as well. So that's certainly one. I think you mentioned sort of relief programs on the rent side of things, those kinds of things, or others. My observation on this is these programs aren't perfect. There are kind of gaps, and where not everybody's covered and whatnot, and that's unfortunate. But I am so proud of the way government and the way all the financial institutions, certainly RBC, have stepped up. These things are not perfect, but we are launching programs in a matter of weeks that would normally take years to stand up, in order to think through all these loopholes and gaps and all those kinds of things. And so I would say, if you have a gap, if you're not eligible and you think you should be, if there's a particular area of relief that you're not seeing that you think you should, I would say, yeah, speak with the folks at the chamber. Speak with us. We're talking to government as well, and we're certainly lobbying for making sure that there's as vast support and coverage as there can be.
Yeah, and I would echo that as well. I mean, we have a group at the chamber that's now 160 people on a telephone call every 2 days. Kelly, you and Chris presented to us, I think it was an eternity ago, it might have been last week.
Like a week, yeah.
A week, yeah. And presented to us about CEBA. But this group, we do have all levels of government, from federal, provincial, and municipal, on the phone. And we're giving them feedback real time on some of the programs that they're developing. So yeah, we've certainly passed on the comments about CEBA, and I do want to say, and how many people did you say have already applied for CEBA across the country?
43,000, and 42,200 have actually been approved.
Right.
For.
So I mean,
it's
big
official.
numbers. Yeah, and big numbers, and obviously that's RBC. So if we kind of count that across all of the banks, there would be lots and lots of folks who qualified for CEBA, but now we are hearing, obviously, about the outliers. I mean, the chamber is an outlier. Our salary costs last year, I think, were $1,150,000. So we don't qualify. There's lots of things that we need to think about. I haven't got a ton of questions. I think I'm sort of wrapping up a little bit, Kelly, but I have one final question for you, and that is, today is National Takeout Day. So will you be ordering from a restaurant for dinner this evening? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love to cook at home, and as like everybody, I have been cooking at home a lot more. But I think that, initiatives like this are absolutely wonderful for us to be able to instill confidence and to be able to support our local communities. And so I can tell you without hesitation, yes, today and every other Wednesday, I will be.
Perfect. Okay. Now your choices may be somewhat limited with a 3-year-old at home, but but nonetheless.
French fries, I think we're typically all right, right?
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much. So thank you very much for joining us. Kelly, thanks for your expertise today, and thank all of you for attending and your comments today. We're hosting more webinars every week, every day, with experts in business planning, mental health, and more. So head to halifaxchamber.com/events for a full lineup. We've also recorded this webinar, so it will be available to all attendees shortly. So thank you all very much, and thank you again, Kelly, for joining us. And we'll speak to you again soon, Kelly. And thanks everybody for visiting with us at the chamber. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay.